All right, good morning, good morning. Welcome to this Sunday morning. My name is Tiffany, and I am working on the platform today, wanting to welcome you to this incredible Sunday morning. Reverend Jacquie will be doing her talk, a series on poetry and prayer. And also, we want to say hello to Kelly Hunt over here, bringing us some amazing music this morning. So we're very excited that you're back today. And I don't know, there's just some incredible, amazing energy in this room today, just left over from the beautiful celebration of life service for Mary Omwake last evening. This place was packed, and not just packed with people, but with just this incredible energy and music and the memories and the honoring of the beautiful soul that is and always has been Mary Omwake. So we're all just kind of still in that, just kind of in the spirit of all of that today. And so we also just want to say a little shout out to all of the staff and the volunteers who come together today and every Sunday just to, as Reverend Jacquie likes to say, to help us go make that Sunday. And so we're here to make a great Sunday for everybody. And on that note, we'd like to welcome everybody that's tuning in on Facebook or FaceTime, Facebook Live, good grief, I can't say it, and on YouTube. We're glad that you decided to gift yourself today, and we trust that everything that you hear, whether it's in the music or the laughter or the message, is exactly what you need to hear today in this moment, just to help your Christ light shine as you move forward through the week. We want to remind everybody that in unity we honor all paths to God, and that we believe that all people are born in original blessing. Also in unity we affirm that people of all creed, color, ability, sexual orientation, sexual expression are all here, beloved child of God, and that we are here to honor each one of us in our unique, diverse expressions. We come together each week to remember and remind each other who and whose we are. And as we do that, we know that the Christ candle, which is lit behind us, is a symbol that Christ light is always present within each one of us. And so as we behold the light that we are, let us also affirm our unity truth statement. It's a foundational truth statement together. There is only one power and one presence in the universe, and in my life, God, the source of all good.
And the vision, a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. And our future space affirmation, we'll be working on that soon, for our new spiritual home that empowers us to fulfill our mission. So, please join Kelly Hunt with How Can I Serve Today?
Morning. Stand and sing if you want to. Here we go, everybody. All right. How can I serve today, sweet spirit? How can I serve today, oh Lord? Speak in ways that I will understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. Who needs my love today, sweet spirit? Who needs my love today, oh Lord? Speak in ways that I will understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. How must I share today, sweet spirit? How much I share today, oh Lord? Speak in ways that I will understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. How can I serve today, sweet spirit? How can I serve today? stand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. Oh, yes, I will. Kelly.
The word for today from the Daily Word is
Rain.
It is pouring, yes. Raining strength on us. So, divine strength invigorates my body and quickens my mind. If I feel my energy waning during a time of vigorous physical or mental activity, if my get up and go has got up and gone, I remember these inspiring words from the prayer of faith. God is my strength, unfailing, quick. The strength of God is my strength, and it's more than sufficient to meet my every need. More than toughness or forcefulness, spiritual strength is quiet fortitude, a rootedness in the inexhaustible wellspring of the divine. So today, I release all thought of weakness or impossibility. I feel the power of divine strength flowing through me, invigorating my body, and bringing renewed clarity to my thoughts. The strength of God is my strength. The Bible verse from 1 Corinthians, for God's foolishness is wiser than human wisdom, and God's weakness is stronger than human strength. Ask.
And so as we center in the power of strength this morning, we set this sacred space, whether you are here in the room or joining us online. Together we are one through that infinite power and presence in the universe, God the good. And so together we set this sacred space, knowing that as our hearts are open, God moves in. And this is the source of our true strength, the pure presence of the divine. So we allow that presence to do its work in us. We allow that presence to be us, to animate us, to be our voice, to be the instigator of our action, of our words. And for this truth that abides always, we are so grateful. And so it is. Amen. And now I would like to invite Deb Amendola up, one of our board members, our vice president, and chair of the nominating committee.
Thank you, Reverend Jacquie. Well, good morning, everybody. It's so wonderful to see you.
Hang on a second.
Thank you for coming today with this crazy. Is my mic working?
Can I give her this one?
Oh, I said, do I need to turn it on? No, it's not. All right, sorry. I'm Deb Amendola. As Jacquie said, I can hear myself now. I'm the vice president on the board of directors, and one of the things I wanted to do this year was really improve the nomination process for board of directors this year. When I came on board a couple of years ago, it wasn't quite like this. And so I wanted to be sure that everybody walked in with their eyes wide open, and we sourced everybody that we possibly could. So let me tell you a bit of what we've been up to. This was probably late March at a board meeting. We identified at the board meeting all the people that we thought would be good to be on the board. These were people that were maybe on the ministerial search team or maybe on the bylaws committee, those kind of things. At that point in time, I said, I want a nominating team to help do this. And so, believe it or not, I was able to assemble my dream team. All right, so Reverend Jacquie was one of those people, Tiffany Crabtree, so if you would come up here, and Candace Wolken. And so it was the four of us that worked with all of these candidates. And I just want to tell you that all four of these, including myself, we worked hard for you to get you the right kind of board members that will really do a good job for us as Unity Church of Overland Park. So thank you all so very much for everything that you did. So believe it or not, we reached out to the 19 people that the board told us about. We talked to them either by phone or email. We interviewed, we reached out to the 19. 5 people said yes to Spirit and filled out the application for a board, for the board position by April 21st. Yay! What I would say is that is purely a sign of prosperity for us. So we interviewed the 5 people by Zoom between May 3rd and May 13th. We spent about 30 to 35 minutes with each person. I would say it was enlightening and fun. Do you guys agree? Yeah. It was fun to hear everybody's answers about why they wanted to be on the board and what they would bring to the board. So I want to introduce you to the stellar candidates that have said yes to Spirit. So if you would do this for me, if you'd come and stand in the very front here, that would be fabulous. So first we have Pam Inlow. She's right here. Yay. I don't know that Kathy Fisher is here today, so she's one. I can understand why she might not be with the rain that we're having. Colleen Nielsen. Yay. Gary Hild. Yay. And then the 5th one is Angela Herman. So she won't be here today because she is camping in Arkansas today for the weekend. So, yay. Let me tell you about quickly the next steps. In the next week or so, I'm going to work with Deb Philby to get everybody's bio on the website so you can get to know them a little bit better and what they're thinking. On June 13th, we will have a sharing circle after the Sunday service so you can actually have a conversation with these 5 amazing people. We have 4 openings and 5 candidates, so that means that you will need to vote on them. We will be doing that on June 27th at our annual meeting. So be sure and mark your calendar for June 27th so that you can participate in that process. And if you're not a member yet, talk to Reverend Jacquie about changing that. And then the last thing that I just wanted to tell you about is once we get the new board assembled, we will have our yearly board strategic planning meeting sometime in July. And so we're excited about the future of our church. We have amazing people to possibly be on the board. So that is all I need to say. Thank you all for helping.
Let's stay put. Gary, Colleen, stay put, and we bring Angela and Kathy into this group, and I would just like to speak a blessing. So if you know our Unity blessing, warm your hands up, and if you don't know the words, just warm your hands up and open your hearts. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ as you. Thank you so much for stepping forward in sacred service. Yes, and so as Deb said, this is absolutely a sign of our thriving, and it feels so good. It feels so good to know that just around the corner is the time when we can gather again. The women's group met yesterday. We had 25 people attend. We had Mary Omwick's service here. We had about 80 people in the room, and the band and the music, and we've got our Kelly Hunt this morning. So we are filling this space with our love and our energy and our thriving community. And so now is the time in the service where we bless our practice of engaging the cycle of prosperity. As we give, we know we receive. And so you can write your checks. You can, those of you in the room, there's a donation box in the back that you can just drop your love offering there. If you are wanting to do so online, you can do it very securely. If you go to our website, ucop.org/giving, and of course you can mail your checks in to 10,000 Marshall Drive. So let's put our hands together one more time as we bless the gifts in which we give so freely. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I am joy-filled and grateful, and so it is.
Shaped by who we say we've come here to be, created me. You know the door is open if we are willing to walk consciously, create in me. My wildest dreams come true. Oh, I see the same for you. The only moment we ever have is right now. You see, created me. The door is open if we are willing to walk consciously. Oh, create in me. Anything is possible now. Everything our minds will allow. Shaped by who we say we have come here to be, create in me. Oh, anything is possible now. Everything that our minds will allow. My wildest dream come true, and I see the same. Shaped by who we say we've come here to be, create in me. Oh, create in me.
Kelly. Amen. Create in me. So today we begin a new series on prayer and poetry, that creative impulse within us to express our feelings, our inspirations, our aspirations, our faith. And we are so blessed in Unity to have a history of people, of leaders, James Dillet Freeman, who wrote the Prayer for Protection, and other prayers and poems that you are familiar with, and you may not be able to think of it now, but you'll know soon. Myrtle Fillmore, also a writer, and so many more. I received an original poem this week that was written by the son of Polly Swafford. Our dear Polly, who has been a member of UCOP since the 90s, has something very special happening this week. On May 20th, she has a birthday. And I assume I have permission to say, because we've already printed it, this is 95, her 95th birthday. Yes. Yes. So I will invite Polly to come up in just a few moments, but first I want to tell you some things. 95 years. That is 34,695 days. And I bet some of them were long. Some of those might have been long days. 1926. So Polly, you were born the same year as Marilyn Monroe. You might know that. Queen Elizabeth II. The same year that Route 66 was created. The same year that Winnie the Pooh was first published, and that Disney Brothers Studios became Walt Disney Studios. I mean, this was quite a year. Ford Motor Company created the 40-hour work week. 1926. Unity was well underway by that time. Silent Unity had already been established. The Fillmores were well known in Kansas City. So just to give a little context for our Unity perspective, a gallon of gas, 25 cents. The stamp, first class stamp, 2 cents. So you're going to give us your 2 cents today. There's something in there. The president, anyone know who was president in 1926? Calvin Coolidge. Yeah. So it is such a joy to be able to think of the years that you have lived through the Great Depression, World War II, Vietnam, walking on the moon, television. Actually, also in 1926, the first prototype of a television was played in London in a very secret research room. Okay, so now imagine to now, Polly emails. We email. So imagine what she has seen in the span of her life. Quite extraordinary. And she is quite an extraordinary woman. So her daughter sent me some information, and we'll publish this in the e-news so that you can read all of it. But I want to share some highlights with you. So back in the 50s, Polly began listening to Unity Radio and found the messages comforting. And so she joined UCOP not until the mid-90s, after her husband passed away, in which a friend introduced her to UCOP to help support her during that time. And we are all about the love, aren't we? So she has been in good hands. She loved that the Unity message provided hope and an answer to long-sought search for the purpose in life. Polly considers her life to be more ups than downs. She grew up in St. Joseph, Missouri during the Depression, and she learned her resourcefulness during that time, as I imagine everyone did at that time. But she also was trained by her mother, who found ways in the trade of art and dance, piano, and expression lessons. How beautiful is that? So we have a creative family coming forward, so on point, which now explains why we received a poem. And so also, Polly, an educated woman. So let's think back, 1926, forward about 20 years. College-educated woman, Duke University, undergraduate degree in poli-sci, and postgraduate degree in secondary education and history from UMKC. She worked for the St. Joseph News Press and wrote advertising copy for the Shoppers columns, Shopping with Sue. She went on to work at Fairfield Publications, and she married and had 2 girls. She divorced and moved to Kansas City and remarried and gained a son. Or had a son, sorry, and then gained 2 stepchildren. So after moving to Kansas City, she became a well-respected teacher, and as evidenced by many awards, I'll just name a few or we'll be here all day. National Teaching Awards, State Teaching Awards, a Fulbright Scholar in Brazil, and this award really stuck out to me, Most Involved Teacher Award. Now, I know some teachers, and they are involved people, if ever there were a group of involved people. So to get the Most Involved Teacher Award is really something. Then in 1989, she and her husband started a tabloid magazine. I want to know so much more about this. Called Potpourri, aptly named. I don't know, can you hear me over the rain? It might have to turn me up. Oh my goodness, so she joined the League of Women's Voters, very active, and here at UCOP she helped establish the Green Team, which we are famous for in the Unity movement, you might know. She's very active now in her senior community living center. She helps in the library, joining the book club and the poetry group, and her family says that she is an integral part her family is an integral part of who she is. Her 3 children live close by, and her stepson who lives in Canada is just a Zoom call away. For a woman who was born really at the same time as TV, just a Zoom call away. So her grandson, one of her grandsons says she is the kind of grandmother you would read about in a fairy tale. That is super sweet. Now, get your Kleenex. Here's the poem that her son David wrote. Have you read this? Have you seen this? No? My mother is the cornerstone, the base rock of all that is us. My mother has stood firm against the tempest winds like a pillar made of courage and love and hope. More than her words, more than her intentions, she taught me most by her striving and surviving. My mother is an inspiration to all of us and many more. People, they look at her and feel pure admiration. Polly, would you come up so we could sing you a song? Yeah. Tiffany's right here. Yeah. Love you, Polly. Happy birthday. Oh, she says she is speechless. Do you have any words? Just completely speechless. We love you, and we are so glad that you're here today and that we have an opportunity to celebrate you. Yes, blessings, blessings. Yes, yes. Poetry and prayer. What a beautiful way for us to be able to kick off this series by celebrating, by expressing and feeling, opening our hearts to what it feels to truly love purely another. James Dillet Freeman, Unity's poet laureate. So many of you know the prayer for protection. So I don't know if that's Jim Freeman as he's known, or if that's Mary Omwake. Because yesterday I had started the rumor that we would have fireworks, and so we keep getting lightning and all kinds of zapping, and I'm loving it. They're having fun, and so we'll just roll with it, right? So Jim Freeman, who was born in 1912, so just before Polly, but kind of a contemporary. He lived until 2003, and again, he became Unity's poet laureate. He began writing poetry just as a child. And then when he would tell the story that when he became a teenager, it wasn't macho enough for him. He had other things to do, so he stopped writing poetry. But eventually, he couldn't stop it. So after he finished high school, he started writing again. Now, he was introduced to Unity when his parents moved to the Kansas City area, and his stepfather, who he actually described as a very stern man, perhaps even a little too stern. But his stepfather had a really bad case of hay fever. And so he was provided care by someone who suggested that he go to a completely vegetarian diet. And if you know your Unity history, you would know the biggest vegetarians in Kansas City at that time were the Unity folks. And so he made his way to Unity, which at that time was down on 9th and Tracy, downtown Kansas City, and to meet with healers and to receive prayer and to receive support. And so the Unity Inn, which was started, it's now at the Village, but was at that time at 9th and Tracy, was serving vegetarian food only, so he would go there and eat. Myrtle Fillmore was hanging out, and he just adored her, and so he started bringing his family to Unity prayer services and groups. So Jim got introduced to Unity that way. Now Myrtle got wind that he was into poetry, and he actually had been trained by his father to recite poetry for his friends at home gatherings. So Myrtle invited him, because they would always bring in entertainment, musicians, or other performers into their prayer groups. So she invited young Jim to come in and read poetry, and they would pay him a penny. which I don't know, if I'm thinking gas was 25 cents a gallon and stamps were 2 cents, that's not a bad wage for a kid. But he would say that they were trying to teach him that you can't make a living as a poet, to like not expect much. In fact, at one point, after he was offered a job at Unity in the mailroom, Charles Fillmore said to him, you know, you really ought to find something practical to do because you're never going to make a living as a poet. Eventually, Charles Fillmore offered Jim the job that would allow him to make a living as a poet. And so Jim would talk about that he believed, he always believed, and it was the thing that he couldn't not do. He had to write poetry. And thank goodness for us. What a gift we have been given. So much treasure in his writings. So I want to share with you, I Am There. This writing, which I'll say more about in a minute, is out of this world. And some of you know what I mean. So I'll just read the first part. I am there. Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I am the power at work in your hands. I am at work, though you do not understand my ways. I am at work, though you do not recognize my works. I am not strange visions. I am not mysteries. Only in absolute stillness, beyond self, can you know me as I am, and then, but as a feeling and a faith. Yet I am there, yet I hear, yet I answer. When you need me, I am there. So let me tell you two things about this poem. The first is he wrote this when his wife was going through a cancer experience. He first heard the words while he was sitting in prayer in the hospital. She was in surgery. I am there. Do you need me? I am there. He heard it as a voice, so clear and loud that he looked around the room to see who was there. It was Spirit. And so it was over the coming months that he began to write the rest of the poem. Because on that day, when the doctor came out of the operating room with his wife, Catherine, he let him know that the cancer was terminal and that she only had a few months to live. So he began this journey of walking her home, and it was difficult. There were a lot of painful days. There were a lot of challenging days, and he was by her side throughout all of those days where he was writing this poem. And so he worked with that. Do you need me? I am there. And they both settled into their faith as they made that journey with her home. The power of poetry and prayer when woven together, it's like music, right? Which is prayer and poetry together to bring what is in us out into expression. Here's the other thing I want to tell you about this poem, this out-of-this-world poem. It was actually carried by astronauts to the moon. To the moon. So our poet laureate, and he had no idea until 10 years later that this had happened. James Irwin carried a microfilm, so this will date it, on Apollo 15 of this film to leave on the moon. Buzz Aldrin carried the prayer for protection in him, in his pocket, I should say. It sounds like he ate it. It was in his pocket, but he carried it on him on his first orbit. Could you imagine learning that something you had written or created had been carried out of this world and was so important to somebody that they carried it with them on a most monumental trip? At that time, only 15 people had walked on the moon. Pretty extraordinary. So the poem closes with, I am the law on which the movement of the stars and the growth of living cells are founded. I am the love that is the law's fulfilling. I am assurance. I am peace. I am oneness. I am the law that you can live by. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your assurance. I am your peace. I am one with you. I am. Though you fail to find me, I do not fail you. Though your faith in me is unsure, my faith in you never wavers because I know you, because I love you. Beloved, I am there. We will send also the full poem of this out in the e-news. So you're going to want to, if you don't subscribe already to our e-news, on this Friday, you're going to want to open that up. You're going to want to read about Polly. You're going to want to read this full poem, which you can also find at unity.org. Now, Jim, he was a teacher, too. He would speak to the students. He would hang out at Unity Village, and there are people there now who worked with him while he was there, and they're great stories. Great stories. I mean, he's everything you want a poet to be, right? And so there are pictures of him, and he had, it was kind of bald on top later in his life, but he had this long silver hair, just long white hair, and just funny and a bit of a prankster. Bruce is nodding his head. Did you know him? Just a little bit. Okay. Yeah. So everything you would want a poet to be, and he could tell amazing stories. And so one of his, this is not really a poem, it's more of an article, but it reads like poetry. Just an amazing, beautiful writer. A fish not even gold. And he tells a story, and so this is not a setup. So I know what I told you, my fishing joke before, and you're like, oh, here she goes about fish again. This is not a setup. He talked about his home. He had 2 ponds. And they had, of course, as ponds tend to do, they had drained, dried up. When he had first created these ponds, he'd put fish in them, goldfish. The ponds dried up, fish died. Winter came, spring came, the rains came. It would kind of fill up a little bit, then it would dry out, fill up, dry out. So he decides, okay, I need to go work with these ponds and get them going again. So he went out there in March, and he gets to work, and on top of the mud, there's a goldfish. And it is lifeless, and he's assuming it's dead. But something in him said, no, it lives. And he picks it up, and the fish gasps for air. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I almost said you can't write this, but he wrote this. He wrote about the story. The fish just was gasping, and so he took it inside. He got it in some water, and it took about a week before the fish really did anything. But it started swimming around, and through the days, it began furiously swimming, he would describe it, like it had known what it was like to be near death. And so it was soaking up life and just living furiously and swimming. And this is what he says, it lived to live furiously again. You may not think so, but I will always believe I had to go out to that pond because it had to live. And see what he's doing with this. He's bringing purpose to his life. That the whole reason he went out to the pond was not to do his gardening and his landscaping, but it was so the fish could live, that there was a connection between him and the fish that he knew nothing about, but that he was just going about his business. So you see where I'm going with this? How we move consciously through our own lives. When we think we're just going out to the car, but we see someone who needs help. Or we think we're just making a phone call and we receive a gift of love and friendship. He says, you may not think so. You may not think this fish story is very special. But I will always believe I had to go out to the pond because it had to live. I suppose you had to see my fish to understand. You had to pick it up. You had to see it lashing about the bowl. You had to see it whirling through the pond because he did take it back out to the pond. Somehow that fish had the livingness of life in it. What a fuss to make about a fish. You may be saying, and a ridiculous coincidence. You just happened out there. It just happened to be the fish. You happened to pick it up, you weirdo. You know, you with your hair and your poet life and you're picking up fish and giving it CPR. This is what he's imagining we're thinking, right? A ridiculous coincidence. I am only such a fish, not even gold. And my pond is also a perilous, precarious place. It too has had many, many times of freezing, of thawing, and of drying out. Ah, so beautiful, right? He takes it in, and now I'm like, oh, through the heart, Jim. Yes, I feel this. My pond too, it dries out, it freezes. And like my fish, I too am here. I feel, because I have called. And the feet of the world have been no less swift when they ran to succor me. We are all linked, one to another. We answer. Though we have heard no voice, we respond. Though we do not know, we have been summoned, and the universe responds to us with powers you could not think were there, by ways you had no forethought of, bringing help you could not know would come. How many of you have experienced that? Receiving hope that you did not know was even possible, that could even come to your rescue. What a blessing to have someone who could put into words these shared experiences that we have. That, I think, is the true art and gift of poetry, of music, right? When it hits and you feel like that song was written just for me. This is actually telling my story. That poem came from my soul. And it's that connection that we each have. Connection one to another, connection to the fish in the world, connection to the astronauts. Connection, life, love, prayer, poetry. For these things, we are so grateful.
Anything is possible now. Everything our minds will allow. Oh, my wildest dreams come true, and I see the same for you. Life is shaped by who we say.
Kelly. Thank you, Jacquie. Poetry. Heart and soul. As we feel the love, we feel the energy, the consciousness of James Dillet Freeman, Jim, of Polly, of Mary, and yes, you and me. And we settle in to a time of centering, of meditation. In the presence of the one, in the presence of the truth, all is healed, all is whole, all is well, all is well. In the presence of the one, in the presence of the truth. All is healed, all is whole, all is well. All is well.
With the breath, we know all is well. With the sound of the rain, we know that all is in divine order, that life is always unfolding. If it's comfortable for you, I invite you to close the outer eyes and open the inner eye to the vast expanse of the universe, having its way in, through, and as you. We breathe easily, knowing that no effort is required for this body to sustain life. Our cells embedded with divine intelligence. We simply breathe. That life-sustaining breath. And so it is with the divine in and through us. There is no effort that must be made. It simply is. God is. I am. So we allow that voice to speak in our hearts. Do you need me? I am there. So whatever ways we are in need of spirit, whatever ways we are in need of comfort, of peace, of hope, we allow the voice of spirit to speak in the heart as a knowing. You may not hear it audibly like Jim Freeman did. It may be a knowing in your heart. I am there. And the second knowing is to know that that is enough. You may find your heart longing for a to-do list, an action plan, and next steps. But it is simply in the knowing of truth, of knowing the presence of God, that is enough. The next steps will flow just as easily as the breath and just as powerfully as the rain. Strength is yours. Life is yours. God is yours. So we rest now in this truth. We take it fully in, to the dark corners of our hearts and soul that may have forgotten. Now become open to this truth as we reflect in silent contemplation.
And yes, we say amen to this. We say amen and yes. Because we know that presence, I am, is there. I am is here. In the presence of the one.
In the presence of the one.
In the presence of the truth.
Of the truth.
All is healed.
All is healed.
All is whole.
All is whole.
All is well.
Oh,
All is well. Sing with us. In the presence of the one. In the presence of the truth. All is healed. All is whole. All is well. All is well. In the presence of the one. In the presence of the truth. All is healed. All is whole. All is well. All is well.
be blessed, my brothers, and be blessed, my sisters. Be blessed wherever this life leads you. Let me encourage you. Let me speak life to you. You can depend on God to see you through. And you can depend on me to pray for you. Oh, you might be hurting. You might be crying. You might be worried and frustrated too. Oh, but let me need you. Let me speak life to you. You can depend on God to see you through. You can depend on me to pray for you. Pray. I'm gonna keep on praying. Pray. Oh, I am gonna keep on praying for you. Pray. I'm gonna keep on praying. Oh, pray. I'm gonna keep on praying for you. You can depend on God to see you through. And you can depend on me to pray for you. And I see you in the future, and you look better. I see you walking in favor and prosperity too. Oh, let me encourage you. Let me speak life to you. Oh, you can depend on God to see you through. You can depend on me to pray for you. I pray for you. You pray for me. And watch God change things. Oh, I will pray for you, and you pray for me. Oh, we will see God change things. Oh, I will pray for you. Pray for me. And watch God change things.
Thank you, Kelly. That was beautiful, beautiful. This is just a reminder that we will have our coffee, chai, tea time following today's service. Check out this morning's e-news for the link to the Zoom meeting. And finally, mark your calendar. Our in-person services will resume and the church will be open on June 6th. Yay! And now let's close out our service with prayer, our mission, and a final song from Kelly.
So can everybody join us as we say the prayer for protection together? The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And will you also please join me in Unity Church of Overland Park's mission statement together. Unity Church of Overland Park transforms lives and empowers people to make a difference in the world.
Join us back here next Sunday as our poetry and prayer series continues with Reverend Jackie's message, a glimpse into the poetic writing of Myrtle Fillmore. Who knew? Terry Swope and Fred Albers will be providing our music. So we welcome back Kelly Hunt for a final song, Glory, Glory, Hallelujah.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Since I laid my burden down, glory, glory. I laid my burden down. You know that I feel better, so much better, since I laid my burden down. That's right, but I feel better. How about you? So much better, yes sir, since I laid my burden down. You know that every round goes higher and higher. Oh, since I laid my burden down. For every round goes higher. Oh Lord, since I laid my burden down. I laid it down. Yeah, I laid it down. Say I laid it down. Woo! I laid it down. One more time. I laid it down.